Hey guys, it's Chris, and welcome to Toned and Toneful, the self-actualization video series, episode 77. Keep going, you'll find your pace. So in this week's episode, guys, I'm really excited to be tying up the New Beginning series. Through the month of March, we've spent a lot of time talking about the process of taking on a project, to being hopeful about it, from that hope turning into, the natural problems we incur and it becoming a plateau. And now we're going to be talking about what comes after the plateau. Many times for people, when they enter the plateau stage of any project or any part of a process, they end up starting to see the opportunity that was once fresh, bright, and new as something that, with a little bit of disdain, they might see this project as something that is now, lost its luster. But it doesn't have to be this way. Many times our mindset is what changes that from it being a plateau that brought tension and put us under the pressure of starting to understand that the process is more important than just the results. And it can lead us to finding something that we all should be looking for in the process throughout it. Pacing. Pacing is such an important part of the process. And a lot of times it doesn't really come into full visibility until you've either lived the process of a few projects in your life that you've either finished, you've worked through, or maybe you're a hyper-organized person and got to enjoy that from the absolute start. You've been able to enjoy pacing all the time. But one of the things that I feel that you learn is that pacing actually makes the process more enjoyable. That pacing allows your mind to not only think in smaller chunks, but to also become more creative in the moment while you're working on little details of the project that shouldn't be rushed because the enjoyment and the creation of it come together. And like I spoke about in previous episodes, if a painter is painting something and with each stroke we're losing one more decision we get to make, we should enjoy the decisions that we're making along the way. So for example, if you paint the background of a painting and you're starting to work on top of it, with every paint stroke that came before, you're actually determining the paint stroke that's going to come after in a small way, because it must complement the overall project. It must be part of it in such a way that the project can be enhanced by what you're choosing to add. Because there will become a moment where the decision is the project is finished. The piece of art is done. The song is done. And so with that in mind, finding your pacing is such an important part of the process that we can find at the end of the plateau. And some of us, again, might have experienced that from the start. We've been through multiple projects. But this is for those of us who are still learning that through the plateau, we might have experienced burnout. We came into the project with a little too much heat. We came on too fast, too quickly. And by a month in, when problems started to arise, we didn't have the mental bandwidth anymore to start creating solutions and being able to lock in on those, because a lot of the energy was spent in maybe the honeymoon phase, where at that point, we're still learning what the project is. We're still learning what our new responsibilities will be in our new role, in how we're going to, plan out and manage this particular process that we're going to be taking on. But in due time, when we hit the plateau, that is the biggest point of learning. Under that tension, if we can live under the tension of the plateau, because it's flat, and there's a tenseness to things that are flat. In our human experience, we're looking for those peaks and valleys. We're looking for the up of the honeymoon. We can even handle the experience of a dip and be in that, be in our sadness and be more creative in our sadness, or maybe have more expression in our sadness. And that can go to happy too. But what about when it's even? When you know that you need to put in an hour every day and you pass that? Because when you pass the plateau, you're still in the plateau, which is the most interesting thing. But as the plateau becomes something you understand, you can deal with the tension of the consistency. You can now ascend again. You've created emotional space to rise. But you can't have that if you're living in a place where you must have your project constantly moving up and down in such large dramatic movements. For those of you who maybe learned to put an hour into practice every day for your musical instrument, or put an hour into working on your sewing, or maybe you're a clothes designer and you design for an hour every day. For those of you who've been putting effort into exercising every day, maybe your art project is your body and you're building a certain physique. No matter what that is, as you put more time into where you are in the plateau, you realize that the plateau is the ongoing part of the process, especially when we're doing long-term things. And being able to see that if I did this an hour a day and look back in 2 weeks, I'll see some results. I look back in 1 month, I see greater results. I look back in 1 year and I go, wow, what happened? I transformed. And that transformation was so small, it's like hair growing. You don't notice your hair growing maybe day by day, but one day you have long hair. It's coming from someone who knows. But this is one of the important parts of understanding how to find your pacing and build that up. So one of the things to keep in mind as we're going through finding our pace is looking at the rest of our life. Just like our project is a new part of our life, every part that we had before and we could have noticed in the honeymoon phase was still there. We're still needing to eat healthy. We're still needing to spend time with friends and family. We're still needing to put time into hobbies and things that we had from before, unless it was a chosen thing we were going to give up. And all the things that we kept from our life, and then we wanted to bring in this new process, this new promotion, this new band, the art showing that is we've never done before. We must recognize how that is like a paint stroke in our life, and we need to complement it with pacing. If you can find that I have 2 free hours a day and 30 minutes to my 4 main things I like to do a day for myself and for others fits in that 2-hour period, a half an hour a day is perfect, right? It's not about the half an hour. You could do 3 hours, but if you did 3 hours and then you didn't do it the rest of the week, the half an hour every day is better. Why, might you ask? Why is it better than obsessively working on something for a short amount of time, 1 time a week, versus really getting some time to do it, to put in the effort? It's about building the mindset and the lifestyle. You know, becoming a guitar player isn't something you do once a week on Saturday and play for 15 minutes or play all night. Maybe you play all night on Saturday, but you should still be practicing for 20 to 30 minutes a day, right? An hour a day, right? You can choose what that amount of time is. That's what the pacing's about. But if you're looking to achieve a level of mastery and to involve yourself in the process is about including it into your life. And being able to find joy in the daily movement of the things that are important to you in your life. If you're taking your life and you're just kind of like hodgepodging these different times that you're just obsessing over like little things, you'll have results, but they'll be very mixed. You know, take, for example, someone who goes to the gym 1 time a week. The day after, they're really sore. 2 days after, when their body's starting to heal up, they might look kind of good. But then they go back into their normal eating habits. They have 5 days of not working out, and then they go back to the gym. We call these people weekend warriors. And there are people who are weekend warriors with music. They only practice Saturday, Sunday. And then the rest of the week, they don't even pick up a guitar. And they'll tell you they don't have time. But they'll scroll their phone for 15 or 20 minutes. They'll spend 15 or 20 minutes sitting in their car decompressing. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of those things individually, with decompressing or with scrolling on your phone. But if you're not making time for the things that are part of your process, that bring you joy, that are hobbies, or things that you're willing to work for to change something in your life, you'll notice that that change will not come to you the same way that it comes to a person who puts a little bit every day. The person who sounds the best on their guitar is the person who is always on it. You know, someone can play for 20 years, be really great, and then stop. But the guy who played for 40 years straight is going to have a totally different sound. I'm guilty of this myself, thinking that muscle memory can save me sometimes. That I could play a lot for a few months and then go into a hibernation. Now, maybe that hibernation or that break that I'm taking is my form of pacing. But that pacing isn't as effective as me creating a very good, actual, consistent pace for myself in order to be in the mindset consistently, to see certain things in the guitar or in the music that when someone spends time regularly with things, they start to discover, they start unfolding. It is only through looking at something deep enough that we see all the details. And so that's why the plateau is such an important tipping point. It is actually a point where you get to recognize that the honeymoon phase is a lot of posturing. It's a lot of getting yourself mentally and physically feeling like you're ready. But the real transformation is happening in the plateau where the tension finally begins. The problems start to arise. And with those problems, we create solutions. And with those problems, we create a reference point to become better at what we do. And within that gives us the opportunity to become the artist and become the observer of the process that we're looking to become. When we enjoy the process, that means we enjoy daily life. And when we enjoy daily life, we become happier. And being happier on a more consistent basis is going to bring better health to you and better to those around you who see you. And those who see you can learn, look at so-and-so. With their consistency and with their mindset, I'm learning that my inconsistent way of being, while it might have excitement here and there, is not as well thought out. And the most ironic thing is the more consistent you are, you've actually saved more emotional bandwidth for the ups and the downs. When something bad happens, you're going to feel it because you're used to things being consistent. You're going to be in it. And you'll get to experience those lows. And I know no one's wanting to experience that maybe in like an outright, they won't admit, like, I want to be sad. But those lows allow us to come high again. And when we're consistent, when something really great happens, it brings a whole new luster to life because you're able to go, hey, I'm consistently here and look what's going on right now. So in these levels that we're trying to constantly equivalate, it's in the plateau that we find the pace. And it's in the pace that we find the emotional bandwidth to experience our life to the next highest level. And this is why new beginnings are so important. Spring is beginning again, and you can see animals starting to work on their honeymoon phase. The ants are coming back in your house. The birds are chirping outside, getting ready for mating, because they have a whole new set of a cycle to build. They're building new nests. They're getting ready to have the new baby birds. The ants are getting ready to find food for the summer so they can pack up for the winter. They're already seeing that long-term goal without them even knowing it. They're so naturally following that cycle. And from them, we can learn that in the plateau, in the consistency of what we need to do throughout our year this year, that we can enjoy 2026 even more. So I really appreciate you guys. And this is episode 77 of Toned and Toneful. I'm going to be giving you the 4 questions that correlate to this episode so that way you guys can enjoy them. I'm going to grab them. All right, and here we go, guys. The 4 questions. Question number 1. How does the confidence that you feel in your project now feel different from the honeymoon phase before the plateau? Do you feel more solid in your skills and mindset? Question 2. What habits and performance changes did you need to make in order to... I'm going to redo this one more time. What habits and performance changes did you need to make in order to leave the stagnancy or lows you experienced during the plateau? Question 3. Locking in nonstop doesn't lead to results the way you think. Has pacing taught you about winning long term? All right, and our last question, question number 4. Now that you are experiencing some results, are you confident because you enjoy the process, or is it still about the validation that comes from others? All right, guys, I really enjoy being able to go over these with you. Take some time to listen to these questions and think about them. If you got to replay them back again, please do. And again, this is episode number 77 of the Toned and Toneful video series. Keep going, you'll find your pace. Thanks, guys, and have a great week. And above all else, stay toned and toneful.